What's up everybody and welcome to the channel. In today's video, we are going to take a look at my 2014 Lamborghini Gallardo against the 2015 Lamborghini Huracan. Now I've owned my car almost a year and a half. I've driven this over 5,000 miles, so I have a lot of seat time in this car. Today I'm here at 704 Exotics where they have this really nice Huracan. Now the last time I drove a Huracan was like a month after buying this car. Really didn't have enough seat time in this to truly know what the Gallardo is all about. Fast forward now with my seat time in my own car, let's see how these two cars stack up. Now I will say it is quite mind-blowing. These two cars are only 1 year apart and yet they are the complete different generations. Now granted, this is the final edition for the Lamborghini Gallardo. This is the first version. So obviously my car's direct competitor would be the Evo rear-wheel drive being a second gen car. However, 1 year apart, new generations, let's see how my Gallardo stacks up to a Huracan. Moving on to the performance specifications, the second gen Gallardo features the 5.2 liter naturally aspirated 10-cylinder motor. Horsepower ranges from 550 to 570, and they make 398 pound-feet of torque. They either have a 6-speed gated manual or a 6-speed single-clutch e-gear transmission. Both all-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive are available. Curb weight is just over 3,000 pounds, and 0 to 60 time can range from 3.4 seconds to 3.9 seconds. Top speed is just under 200 miles per hour. For the Lamborghini Huracan, this has the exact same 5.2 liter naturally aspirated 10-cylinder motor. However, it has been cranked up a notch with horsepower ranging from 580 to around 630. These also make around 400 pound-feet of torque. These cars are only going to have a 7-speed twin-clutch automatic transmission. 0 to 60 time is going to be in the mid 2-second range. Curb weights will also range from around 3,100 pounds to 3,400 pounds, and top speed is a little over 200 miles an hour depending on the trim you go with. Moving on to the styling with the second gen Gallardo and the first gen Huracan, you can tell that they are definitely related, both being Lamborghinis. However, the styling certainly did change quite a lot. You will get that really nice wedge shape on the Gallardo. I like these sharp lines. It is a clean and classy looking supercar, quite honestly. The Huracan is definitely a lot more aggressive, much more wider angles to it. Very different, but still a lot of the same characteristics. For the LED headlights, you're gonna see 2 of those Y shapes for the nice daytime running light. Over on the Gallardo, you're just gonna see 1 of those Y shapes. So once again, you do have some similarities. Black wheels, nice red calipers. Some Gallardos will have carbon ceramic brakes, but it's not common, and then a lot of Huracans will. For the side profile, once again, just a couple vents throughout the side, that really nice wedge-shaped design that Lambos are known for. And then I like how on the Gallardo you have the clear engine cover with a rear window. It does aid in visibility. Got nice vents in the back, massive exhaust tips, as well as a diffuser, name written out. And then over on the Huracan, the rear end is quite a lot different. We have a little bit different shape to those taillights, and rather than a flat deck lid, we have the engine cover going all the way up to the roofline, which actually does make visibility a little bit harder. You still have those sharp lines throughout the side profile, a little bit different style for the side vents. Nonetheless, I think both cars are gorgeous, and they certainly fit the Lamborghini name. Side profile, once again, you got that classic wedge shape. Taking a look at the interior with the Lamborghini Gallardo, as you can tell, it is a pretty cool looking interior. I honestly like the simplicity to it. You have full leather covering everything, leather on the door panel, contrast stitching, some stitching along the dashboard. You're gonna have a couple gauges up above with your oil pressure, temp, and battery, climate controls. Multimedia screen is straight out of older generation Audis. Got a couple basic designs. There is a backup camera with decent graphics. It is a larger screen. Window controls, fuel cap, and your headlights. This is a blank that US cars don't have anything there. You have climate controls, kind of like, once again, old Audis, pretty simple. And then the leather throughout the center. This one even has a cup holder, which is quite nice. Shelf in the back has a lot of space with a nice net, and these are the standard seats. I love the flat bottom design on the steering wheel, super simple. And then for the gauge cluster, you have the analog tach and speedometer. The screen in the center you can control using one of these stalks, and you can just cycle through a few basic things. So really simple interior. However, honestly, I like it a lot. I like the simplicity. You have your reverse button over here, a little bit of cargo over here, and then the paddle shifters are how you put it into each gear. We have different drive modes, sport, automatic, as well as Corsa mode for the transmission. Now moving on to the Lamborghini Huracan, you can tell this is a much more up-to-date interior with new styles, more technology as well. As expected, you're going to get leather across a lot of the surfaces, a bit more Alcantara. You have the nice contrast stitching. There are different bucket seats available depending on the trim. Some models will have cup holders that pop out of the dash. And then we have the same gauges up here that the Gallardo had, however, they are digital. And then for climate controls, actually really similar to the Gallardo. You have to toggle the button and it will make your adjustment. So kind of neat, it's kind of the same, however, it is different. We have heated seats, your controls, the same batch of toggles with windows. We have the blank that does nothing once again, traction control, and then your hazards in the center. We have a multimedia control panel, once again, very similar to how my Gallardo is set up with the type of buttons. However, the screen is now in the full gauge cluster. So you can go through quite a few different things, check the servicing, we have menu, navigation will pop up as well. Now, when you put this in reverse, honestly, the backup camera, I think is actually a bit worse in the Huracan. So I take my car for granted, my backup camera is better. With that said, we have a nice gauge cluster with your different designs. Depending on the different drive modes, it will change just a little bit. With that, we have a massive set of steering column mounted paddle shifters once again, however, just a lot larger. And there's controls on the steering wheel for your drive modes, the same drive modes basically. You can also configure the screen a little bit through this icon. Turn signals are right here. We have windshield wipers over there rather than stocks on the Gallardo. You also have headlight controls over here, nice air vent. And then throughout the center, this one gets push button ignition rather than turnkey. Reverse is this lever. We have a park button, the manual toggle, a nice little storage area, and a CD player. Shelf on the back does seem a little smaller, but I'm sure it's practically the same. And then just one last look. For the Evo generation, which is the new car, you're going to get a nice multimedia screen in the center to control a lot of the basic functions, as well as a massive tack when you're in Corsa. So to start off the comparison, driving in the Huracan. So slow speed, it's quite nice with the dual clutch transmission. You can just kind of drive it like a normal car. So I'm in Corsa mode, we're in manual mode. Let's feel it out a little bit. It rockets up to speed. The gear changes are so lightning quick. The steering is nice and tight. It is a really precise feeling car. And in Corsa mode, we're getting a little bit of that kick in the back between gear changes, which I think adds so much drama. It sounds so good in here. Bumpy. Yeah, the car has a pretty raw characteristic, and it also has the precision. Man, the fun factor is coming alive for sure. Now, if I go into Strada mode, put it into automatic, the exhaust valve's closed, the steering gets a little bit lazier, the car tones down a lot, it's a lot less aggressive. Now, the one complaint I could have with this is the fact that it does drive super normal, which is a good thing because it encourages you to drive this car more. You spend 200 grand on a car, I mean, you want to drive it and keep driving it. My Gallardo, you got to kind of think about it when you drive it. You have to kind of treat it like it's a stick shift. It takes a little bit more care to drive that car just because it's a lot more mechanical and raw. And that does make it to where you don't want to drive it every circumstance. I think with a Huracan, given it tones down so much, it'd be a car that I would probably drive a lot more just because it is ultra livable. And on the flip side, while it is more livable, it has more capabilities. So when we go into, let's just say sport mode, manual mode, the precision is so there. The gear changes now in sport are ultra smooth, so you don't get the kick in the back. So if you're going through tight turns, you can upshift and downshift, and it is just on rails. So it has more capabilities, more speed to it, more handling and everything. I mean, it is a huge step up by far. This car reacts when you want it to react. Whatever you want it to do, it's gonna do it for you. Instant gear changes, the handling is precise, the brakes are insane being carbon ceramics. However, I really, really like that Corsa mode gives you that kick in the back. Dual clutch transmissions can kind of numb the experience. And what I love about my car is it is always an experience, whether I'm going slow or going fast. If you drive this in Corsa, it is certainly an experience. Man. Yeah, Yeah, there's a lot of precision to this car to add the fun factor that I was afraid it was gonna miss. You know, I've talked a little bit about what car I would replace my Gallardo with when the time comes. And you know, I think the Huracan probably is gonna be the only option to keep that V10. And with this precision, I can experience this V10 the way I can't in the Gallardo. The Gallardo, you can't always push it so hard because it is very finicky. It is not this precision designed to where you just can't capitalize on all the performance all the time. Using the interior too, I do like the updates. It's a little easier to use, a little bit simpler. I'm not really all that tech savvy, fancy kind of person, but this kind of reminds me of the Gallardo, just newer generation. I do like the extra space though. This is about a 3-inch larger wheelbase, and I'm fitting better at 5'11". I have a little bit more headroom. My legs are a little bit more straight. I can recline the seat a little bit more too, since there's more space back there. So they've made this car's cabin a bit more usable. The seats are a little bit more comfortable too. After 6 hours in my car, I'm ready to be done driving because it is very raw. So this gives you the livable aspects, but I don't think it's really sacrificing as much fun factor as I was initially expecting. So stepping back in time in the Gallardo. So I'm just in automatic normal mode. With a single clutch in automatic mode, it's a very lazy to drive car. It doesn't react quickly whatsoever. If you're in this drive setting, you're not really getting a lot of what the car has to offer out of it. So I don't ever drive in automatic mode. Stick with manual, stick with sport, because sport gives you a much better gear change. It shifts quicker, more like a really quick manual transmission. It definitely feels like the same platform, which makes a lot of sense. I do think the Huracan feels a little busy with all the shapes and textures, the center stack being up high, the really bulky rear end. This car feels more open, which is actually quite nice. There is a little less legroom, and I can't quite recline the back. Similar headroom, I'd say, but you just have a more open feeling, which is quite nice. Now, when you're in sport mode, there's obviously a lot bigger delay in the transmission. It's significantly different than a double clutch, way different for sure. You still have that heavy steering, and one thing I like with the Gallardo, there's no settings. The suspension, the steering, it's all one way all the time. And again, you know, this is a car that you kind of have to work for 100% of the time you drive this. You can't zone out and just drive this car. The Huracan, you can definitely kind of just chill and cruise. This car, it definitely requires more work. With that, the Huracan's heavy steering in Corsa, almost, you can kind of feel it's artificial. You know it is, basically. This car, it's heavy because it's heavy. So I definitely appreciate the mechanical aspects that the Gallardo has to offer. It really does let you take that step back and kind of remember the old days. This is a mechanical car, and to me, that is a really fun factor to it. So now in Corsa mode, this is gonna be the quickest shifts. This really kicks you in the back. And it's funny, the artificial design that the Lamborghini Huracan did, this is all real. It kicks you in the back because it's a manual transmission at the end of the day. There is no getting around that this is mechanical and raw 100% of the time. It does not really tone down at all. You got that V10 sound. The brakes are definitely heavier. They don't quite bite like the carbon ceramics. But it's a neat experience driving the two back to back. Obviously, gear changes are a little bit slower. Significantly rougher getting up to speed in Corsa mode. It beats you up when you start driving this car hard. Going to sport mode now. And still a thrill for sure. So I think any thoughts now driving back to back, I still love the Gallardo. I love this car. It's so mechanical and raw. It's livable enough to where I can still drive it a lot. Yeah, I don't really choose to drive this every single circumstance just because sometimes, you know, I don't feel like driving it. The Huracan I would definitely drive more because it's more livable, and I appreciate the fact that I can use the power even more and push the car even more. That is a great plus with, you know, the improvement from this generation to the Huracan's generation. But even when you take a step back in this, you know, driving this and that back to back, it doesn't make me want to hurry up and just sell this, get to a Huracan because it's better. I'm enjoying my time with this car, and I love the old school feeling. And for me, at least, this is a car that I'm sure at some point, maybe 5 years from now, I will probably be ready to tone it down in the raw aspects and just have a car a bit more livable, but also a bit more spirited. You know, the Huracan can be driven harder than this. That's simple. That's the technology that it has to offer. So I'm not ready to rush out and get rid of this and move on, but I know when the time comes, at least I know I can get this car with more power, more technology, more precision. Yeah, it's toned down, but I'm sure at that point I will appreciate a bit more toned down V10 supercar. So ending thoughts after driving my Gallardo alongside a Lamborghini Huracan. To be honest, I like the Huracan more than I was initially expecting. The thing that I love about the Gallardo so much is that it is so raw. It is always an experience, whether I'm driving slow or fast. It is just such a thrill. My fear with the Huracan was going to be that it took away so much of the raw mechanical aspects to where, are you really getting a Lamborghini at the end of the day? The answer is yeah. I mean, when you put this into Corsa mode and you start driving it harder, because of its modern technology with the transmission, the upgrades in handling, things like that, you're able to capitalize on that 10-cylinder. In the Gallardo, I don't think you can truly use every bit of the power this car has to offer with the manual transmissions or the single clutch. Obviously, it's a more mechanical car, so it makes it a lot of fun. I mean, don't get me wrong, it is fun, it is fast, but it is nice to be able to hop in the Huracan and go even more aggressive driving because it has the capabilities to kind of keep you on the road. With that, because the Huracan can tone down, when you drive it in normal mode, it's no different than my wife's Audi RS3. Now, my wife never takes the Gallardo out without me. It's not that I don't let her, she's not comfortable driving it alone just because it is more work. It takes more work to drive it. She could hop in this, it'd be no different than her car. So that kind of does take away some of the special aspects with what a Lamborghini is all about, but it makes it more usable. So it's kind of, I don't think either car is better or worse. I think the Huracan is a fantastic new version of the Gallardo. They took what the Gallardo had to offer and made everything better. It is more comfortable, it's more livable, it's more roomy, it has more tech. It is easier to live with and drive more and more. And when you push it, it's got all the character and you can push it even harder. And the fun factor is there. It is a blast, especially in Corsa mode where you get the kicks in the back between shifts, which I really do enjoy in the Gallardo. That just kind of adds a unique character. Now, with all that said, pricing is going to be very different. The top line Gallardos are going to be going for the 150s to 170s. Those are like super leggera, super low mileage cars. Bottom end, you can get a first-gen Gallardo for like $80,000. Now, the Huracan picks up where the Gallardo left off, obviously starting in the mid-hundreds, going up to $400,000. So realistically, you're not competitively shopping these cars together since they are in a different price. So with all that said, I still love my Gallardo. It is an absolute blast, especially at its price point. When the time comes though to sell it and move on to the next car, I'm not in a rush. I love what this car has to offer. It'll probably be a Huracan Evo just to at least get a second gen. Once again, I've always been a fan of Lamborghini's second generation cars. But if you're in the market for a cool supercar that honestly is very affordable to get into, Gallardos to the Huracans, that is a great way to go. From 80 grand to $500,000, you have so many cars to choose from. And after owning a 10-cylinder, I don't think I could get rid of the V10. Huracan picks up where the Gallardo left off. And honestly, Lamborghini did a great job. Both of these cars, you got about 10 years worth of cars to choose from out there on the used market. So there are a lot to pick from. And it's been fun checking out the Huracan alongside my car to see what the updates really are and to kind of look ahead vaguely into the future when it's time to get into the new car. Again, no rush. Love the Gallardo. It is still a joy to drive every day. But man, oh man, Lamborghini knows how to make it. That is it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and stay tuned for plenty more content. Shout out to 704 Exotics for providing the Huracan for today's video. Check out their website, linked below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.